It was 2017, and I was 28, restless in my Albuquerque apartment craving escape. The Chihuahuan desert, just beyond the city, had always pulled at me. Its vastness, its silence, like a canvas where you could lose yourself or find something worse. I'd heard whispers about a dry riverbed called Tumbleweed Wash, tucked near the Oregon Mountains. Old-timers at the diner where I grabbed coffee spoke of it in hushed tones, hikers hearing voices, seeing shapes in the dust. One guy, a retired ranger, swore a woman vanished there in '03. Her backpack found but no trace of her. I didn't believe in ghosts, but the stories stuck, daring me to explore. So one September weekend, I tossed a tent, water, and my old Nikon into my pickup and headed out alone, chasing adventure or maybe just quiet. The drive was an hour, the last stretch a rutted dirt track that rattled my teeth. Tumbleweed Wash appeared as the sun dipped, a jagged scar of sand and rock twisting. Through scrub and yucca, I parked near a boulder, the air thick with heat, though evening was creeping in. The wash stretched north, flanked by low cliffs, their shadows long and sharp. I shouldered my pack, locked the truck and hiked in, aiming for a campsite a mile up where the wash widened. The crunch of my boots was the only sound. No birds, no wind, just a stillness that pressed against my ears. I found a flat spot by a cliff, its face pocked with shallow caves like empty eyes. Setting up my tent felt routine. Stakes in the ground, tarp taut, but the silence unnerved me. I built a small fire, the flames licking at mesquite I'd gathered, and sat with my camera, snapping shots of the stars emerging, pinpricks in a velvet sky. Around 9 p.m., a breeze stirred, carrying a faint smell like damp earth, odd for a desert so dry. I ignored it, chalking it up to imagination, and crawled into my tent, zipping the flap against the cooling night. Sleep was fitful, my dreams, tangled with half-formed shapes. Past midnight, I snapped awake, heart racing. A sound had roused me, a low murmur, like someone whispering just outside. I lay still, straining to hear, my breath shallow. It came again, clearer, a voice, female, soft but insistent, words I couldn't catch, like a radio tuned wrong. I grabbed my flashlight, hands shaky, and unzipped the flap an inch, peering out. The fire was dead, embers cold, though I'd stoked it hours ago. The beam swept the wash, sand, rocks, nothing else. The whisper stopped, leaving silence heavier than before. I zipped up, telling myself it was wind, a trick of the cliffs, but my pulse wouldn't slow. I clutched my knife, its weight grounding me, and sat up, listening. Minutes passed, maybe an hour, then it started again. Whispers closer, circling the tent. "Hello?" I croaked, voice cracking. No answer, just the voice, now forming syllables, my name among them, drawn out like a sigh. I froze, skin prickling. Nobody knew I was here, not my boss, not my friends. The whisper grew, weaving through the nylon, filling my head, urging me to come out, see. I didn't move, didn't breathe. My flashlight clutched like a lifeline. Through the tent's mesh window, I saw something, a flicker of movement. Near the cliff, a shadow, human-shaped but blurred like smoke caught in moonlight. It drifted toward the caves, the whispers trailing it, louder, beckoning. I wanted to scream, to run, but fear glued me in place. The shadow paused, turning, though I saw no face, just darkness where one should be. My name came again, sharp, and the flashlight died, plunging me into black. I don't know how long I sat there, knife in hand, eyes wide in the dark. The whispers faded as dawn hinted gray through the tent. I stumbled out, gasping, the air cold and clean. The wash was empty, my fire pit untouched, no ash disturbed. I scanned the cliff, no shadow, no caves now, just smooth rock, though I swore I'd seen hollows last night. My footprints were there, but no others, no sign of anything passing. My camera lay by the tent, lens cracked, though I hadn't touched. Packing was frantic, my hands shaking as I tore down the tent, stuffing it half-folded into my pack. I hiked back, the wash stretching endless, the cliffs looming like they'd shifted closer. At the truck, I froze. The driver's side door was ajar, though I'd locked it. My water jug inside was empty, cap off, no spills. I climbed in, key, trembling in the ignition, and the engine roared to life, thank God. I drove out, dust clouding my rear view, checking it every second for that shadow. Back in Albuquerque, I stopped at the diner, needing coffee, needing people. The old ranger was there, sipping black. I told him everything, voice low, expecting a laugh. He didn't. "Tumbleweed wash," he said, eyes narrow. "It's got a memory." He'd heard the whispers too, years back, guiding a lost hiker. Said they mimic, call your name, draw you to places you don't come back from. In '03, that woman heard them, left her pack, vanished. Last year, he added, a kid reported a voice there, his phone dead, photos erased. I haven't gone back. My Nikon's in a drawer, its cracked lens a reminder. I read later about others, hikers in Tumbleweed Wash, hearing their names, seeing shadows that weren't there. Some blame heat, others spirits. I don't know what it was, but I feel it still. That whisper in my bones waiting for me to return. The desert doesn't forget, and neither do I. In 2019, I was 30, working as a freelance biologist in the Gobi Desert, Mongolia. I'd traded lab coats for field work, drawn to the desert's raw emptiness, a place where life clung stubbornly to sand and stone. My latest gig was a 2-week survey near the Kongarin Els, a stretch of singing dunes that hummed when wind swept their crests. Locals called them the Whispering Sands, sharing tales of travelers hearing voices, seeing figures that vanished. I scoffed. Dunes don't whisper, they resonate, a trick of physics. But the stories lingered, and when my team got a grant to study Gobi flora, I jumped at the chance, packing my gear and joining 3 colleagues. Sarah, a botanist, Tumen, our local guide, and Liam, a grad student. We set out in June, a battered land cruiser loaded with tents and sample kits ready for science, not spooks. The drive to Kongarin Els took days, the desert unfolding in waves of gravel and dust. We reached the dunes at dusk, their golden curves, glowing like frozen tsunamis. Tumen pointed to a valley where we'd camp, warning us to stick together. "Dunes move," he said, eyes flicking to the horizon. I nodded, thinking he meant sand shifts, not myths. We pitched tents, the air warm, but thinning as night fell. I set up my notebook, sketching plants by lantern light, while Sarah cataloged seeds and Liam fiddled with his camera. Tumen cooked mutton stew, the fires crackled blending with a faint hum from the dunes like a distant choir. I smiled, science at work, nothing more. Sleep came easy, the desert's quiet a balm after city noise. Around 2 a.m., I woke, my tent, in the air heavy. A sound had stirred me, not the hum but a rustle like footsteps crunching sand outside. I sat up, pulse quickening, and listened. Nothing, just my breathing. I unzipped the flap, peering out with my flashlight. The beam caught our tents, the fire's embers, the dunes looming black against the stars. No tracks, no movement. I zipped up, blaming a dream, but sleep wouldn't return. The rustle came again, faint, circling, then stopped. I lay still, heart loud in my ears, waiting for dawn. Morning was bright, the dunes serene. I mentioned the noise to Sarah. She'd heard nothing, her tent 20 feet from mine. Liam shrugged, engrossed in his lens, but Tumen frowned, scanning the sand. "Stay close today," he said, voice tight. We hiked the valley, collecting samples. Tough. Grasses, spiky shrubs. By noon the heat was brutal, 100 degrees, the dunes hum louder, vibrating my chest. I noticed Liam lagging, staring at a dune's crest. "You good?" I asked. He nodded, but his eyes were wide, fixed on something I couldn't see. Sarah whispered he'd been muttering about shapes since breakfast. I brushed it off. Dehydration, maybe. That afternoon we found tracks, not ours, not animal, just shallow lines weaving through the sand like something dragged itself. They led to our camp, then vanished. Tumen's face hardened. "We leave tomorrow," he said. I argued. Our survey wasn't done, but he shook his head, muttering about eyes that watch. I felt a chill, though the sun blazed. Back at camp, Liam was worse, sitting by his tent, clutching his camera, saying he'd seen a figure on the dune, human but wrong. Sarah checked his vitals. Normal, no fever. I told him to rest, hiding my unease. The tracks stuck in my mind, their path too deliberate. Night fell, the hum now a drone, rattling my teeth. I sat by the fire, notebook forgotten, watching the dunes. Around midnight, Liam screamed. I ran to his tent, Sarah and Tumen behind me. He was outside, pointing at the crest above, babbling about eyes, red, glowing, staring from the sand. I saw nothing, just shadows shifting as clouds crossed the moon. Two men grabbed Liam, pulling him back, whispering in Mongolian like a prayer. The hum spiked, words forming. My name, Sarah's, hissed in the dark. Sarah gasped, hearing it too. I froze, flashlight shaking, its beam useless against the dune's black curve. Then I saw them. Eyes, not glowing, but reflective, like a cat's, blinking from the sand. A dozen pairs, low and scattered. They weren't human, too small, too still. The hum became a growl, the air electric, my skin crawling. Two men shouted to pack now, no questions. We tore down camp, Liam sobbing, Sarah silent, my hands fumbling stakes. The eyes didn't move, just watched unblinking as we stuffed gear into the cruiser. I glanced back. One pair was closer, at the camp's edge, no body attached, just eyes in the dust. We drove, two men flooring it, the dunes blurring past. The hum chased us, fading only as dawn broke. The desert flat again. Liam was catatonic, clutching his camera, its memory card blank when we checked. At a village, two men spoke to elders, their faces grim. They'd heard of the eyes, old spirits, or worse, tied to the dunes, luring wanderers to vanish. A herder went missing there in 15, his boots found upright, empty. Sarah quit field work after. Liam never spoke of it last I heard. I haven't returned to the Gobi. Last year, I read of a tourist near Kongoran Els lost for days, claiming eyes followed him, whispering his sins. The desert's alive, its gaze patient, waiting for you to look back. I still hear that hum some nights, calling me to see. In 2020, I was 31, a geologist itching for fieldwork after months in a cramped Reno office. The Atacama Desert in Chile, the driest place on Earth, called me with its stark beauty. Salt flats stretching like bone, air so clear it cut. I landed a solo contract to survey a remote salar near Laguna Verde, mapping soil for a lithium outfit. In San Pedro de Atacama, where I stocked supplies, locals muttered warnings over beer. They spoke of los susurros, whispers from beneath the ground, luring miners into nowhere. An old man at the market selling alpaca wool swore his nephew vanished out there in '92, leaving only a shovel upright in the salt. Smiled, nodding. Folktales, not data. Science kept me grounded. I packed my rented Jeep with a drill, sample kits, GPS, and enough water for a week, heading out alone in July, chasing answers, not ghosts. The drive was 3 hours. The last, stretch a faint track across a sailor that gleamed like snow, crunching under my tires. The sun blazed, no clouds. The horizon a knife edge where sky met salt. I reached the survey site, a flat expanse flanked by a low, jagged ridge, its rocks like broken claws. No plants, no bugs, just crust and silence, the air tasting metallic, sharp in my lungs. I parked, the Jeep's engine ticking as it cooled, and started work, setting up my drill, coring samples from the hard pan. The hum of the motor felt alive, a pulse against the desert's quiet, though my throat dried fast, water barely helping. I logged depths, noting cracks in the salt, old but jagged, like something forced them open long ago. By 3 p.m., I'd drilled 4 sites, sweat pooling under my hat. The ridge's shadow crept closer, cooling the air, and I sat to scribble notes, my pen scratching loud. A sound stopped me, a low thud deep like a stone dropped in a well coming from below. I froze, glancing around. The sailor was empty, the Jeep glinting 100 yards off, undisturbed. I knelt, pressing my palm to the salt. It vibrated, faint but steady, a rhythm not seismic, too regular. I'd studied faults. This wasn't one. My stomach nodded, but I shook it off. Maybe gas pockets trapped under crust. Curiosity, not fear, kept me there, or so I told myself. I drilled again, deeper, the bit whining. At 10 feet, it jammed, then snapped, the motor choking. I yanked it free, heart thudding, and checked the hole. Black, smooth-walled, smelling of damp rot, impossible in a desert this dry. The thudding grew. A voice now, not words. Just a groan, rising like wind through a pipe. Cracks spread from the hole, thin, snaking toward my boots. I stumbled back, grabbing my flashlight, though daylight still burned. The ridge flickered. Something moved, a shape, tall, blurred, gone when I focused. My breath caught. The sailor felt smaller, the silence heavier, watching. Dusk came fast, the sky violet, stars sharp. I packed my gear, the groan louder, echoing. Off the ridge, joined by whispers, formless but close, brushing my ears. I sprinted to the Jeep, salt crunching, and found the driver's door ajar. I'd locked it, I knew I had. My water jugs were empty, caps off, no puddles like the desert drank them. The key turned, the engine coughed, died twice, then roared. Headlights cut the dark, and I peeled out, the track barely visible, the whispers sharpening. My name hissed, woven with others, none familiar. The ground trembled, cracks chasing my tires, the salt splitting like glass. In the rear view, lights appeared, not headlights, too low, too pale, bobbing like lanterns held by hands I couldn't see. They split, multiplied, weaving patterns, closing fast. I pushed 70 mph, the Jeep shuddering, my pulse a drum in my skull. The whispers screamed inside the car now, urging me to stop, to turn back, to see what waits. I gripped the wheel, eyes locked forward, refusing to look. The ridge loomed left, its rocks sharper, leaning in. The GPS blinked, coordinates. Jumbling 23, 56, 88, then died, screen black. A crack split the windshield, thin, unprompted, spidering as I drove. The lights grew, shapes forming. Limbs bent wrong, crawling over the salt, too fast, too silent. I swerved, dodging fissures, the sailor alive, shifting under me. The whispers chanted, my name a loop, joined by laughter, low and wet. I don't know how long I drove. Hours, maybe, the clock frozen at 7:13 p.m., though it should have been midnight. The lights faded, the voices softening, then gone. Pavement hit, sudden and smooth. San Pedro's glow faint ahead. I pulled into a hostel lot, hands shaking, the Jeep stinking of that rot from the hole. The clerk, a woman with tired eyes, saw me stagger in and poured tea, no questions. I spilled my story, expecting a smile. She didn't. Her dad, a prospector, heard whispers in that sailor in '84, saw cracks move like rivers. He quit after finding a cave, its walls pulsing, he swore. Others vanished there. 92, so 5, 18. Gear left by holes that weren't there days later. Last month, she said, a hiker stumbled into town, raving about lights and voices. His map blank, boots full of salt. I scrapped the contract, flew to Reno, the Atacama's dust still in my clothes. My notebook's entries from that day are gone. Pages torn, though I never touched them. The drill bit, kept in my pack, hums sometimes, faint at night. I don't sleep right. The thuds echo in my dreams. The salt calling me back. The desert's not dead. It's awake. Its hollows hungry, waiting for my name again.